Welcome back to the Back in Time podcast. I am your host, Kyle Autry, joined as always by my co-host, JD. JD, you're rocking a thick beard. I like the lighting. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I feel like I'm pulling off a good serial killer look right now. I think I'm week 9 into the beard. I don't think that there's any way of knowing how far along you are in quarantine, but I'm trying my best.
Uh-huh. I don't know if you serial killer yet. Possible crackhead, probably even better with your weird long nails.
Oh yeah, my coke nails. Yes, I'm also growing out my pinky fingernails.
Oh, I should have screenshotted that so I can post it on Instagram.
Well, whoever likes this first, I will chop off my fingernail and send it to you in the mail.
Okay.
That's normal.
Totally normal. Yeah. And this is our first time using Zoom, so we normally don't. I mean, I haven't seen your face in a while. So actually, no, a couple weeks ago we did one, but before that, it was October. I mean, we've done 300 episodes, and I've looked at you like twice.
Well, that's what she said.
Yeah, it's a tough adjustment on my end, but I'll get through it.
Look, you are the fresh shaven one because you're normally the beardy McGee.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've rocked the beard for a couple of years, but now I'm clean shaven. Cut down those whiskers, as my grandpa used to call them. He did not like a beard, so I was clean shaven most of my life.
Did he spank you if you weren't clean shaven?
Nope, not going there. Well, thank you guys for hitting the download button on today's podcast. You can subscribe for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. JD is doing a dance in the background. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Back in Time Pod. And then Facebook, just search Back in Time Podcast. And you can follow us there along with the SIP Network, which is at Network SIP on Twitter and at SIP Network on Instagram. And there's a ton of great podcasts for you guys to listen to. And you can find links to every one of those great shows at sipnet.us. But JD, we've got a couple guests on the line. Why don't you do the introductions here, and we'll talk about the reason we're here tonight.
So we do. So we have a great show ahead of you, all ladies and gentlemen and animals that listen on. I feel like maybe somebody lets their cat listen to Back in Time podcasts while they're away at work, when that was a thing. I don't know. Anyways, we are joined by the wonderful, the one, the only, the palindrome Jedi, Anna. Say hello.
How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. We're happy to have you on. You're leading the way to the guest of the year. You are just plowing through the competition.
That's great. No surprise there.
No surprise. And then we also have an old-time good buddy of ours, Mr. George Warren. I assume his middle name is Hamilton.
Hamilton, huh? No, but close enough, I guess.
Is it Franklin?
It's actually Edward, actually. But
I was kind of close. I was not too far off.
Yeah, something like it.
So your initials are G-E-W.
Yes, like Jew.
Yeah, you beat me to the punchline, you son of a bitch.
I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
You know what's funny? Like, I was actually trying to date this Jewish girl one time, and I wrote my initials down on something, and she looks at it like, what the fuck? And I said, no. That's my initials. It was really awkward after that, though.
She just thought you didn't know how to spell.
Yeah, that's what I said. Jew is spelled with a J, obviously.
Get with it. Yeah, and it just, I mean, from a Jewish man, I am 0.4% Jewish, so I take no offense to that.
Are you seriously? Did you do 23andMe, Kyle?
Yeah, remember we talked about that in an episode. I did 23andMe and there's another one, Ancestry. And yeah, just a tiny little bit of Jewish in our bloodline.
You got a little Paul Reiser up in you.
Everyone's favorite Jew.
There we go. Well,
there's a lot of Jewish talk right now.
Your And
George, let's hear the Bagel Boy.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but I like the way it sounds though. I would do like a bad like Jewish accent or something like an old Jewish man, but I don't want you guys to get like hate mail. Like, who's the black guy? Who do you think he's fucking funny?
Oh, so with all of that set aside, Kyle, why don't you tee us up to the real reason why we're here?
Well, the reason we're here, man, we're breaking down our top 5 songs from the year 2000. You know, we were texting back and forth today, and you had a pretty interesting point that I wanted you to kind of explain a little bit, just kind of how you plan on breaking down your list. Because for you, it's not necessarily a top 5 from that year. It's not, just your favorite songs. Now it's like, well, it's 20 years later, and you're kind of picking what you still like, right?
Yeah, so I went back and forth with this, and with Anna, we went back and forth, and Kyle, you and I went back and forth, and George is on an island alone. He is James and the Giant Peach. He has no friends. But it kind of became like this ongoing question. When you're talking about the top songs from 2000, do you use the magnifying lens of these are the songs that I liked in the year 2000 when we were 14, 15 years old? Or are we looking back 20 years as grown-ass adults to say the year 2000 produced excellent music?
I was telling JD before we hit record, these breakdowns should really be more like top 5 albums, because back in 2000, like, you didn't really just pick a single. Like, it was an album, and you had 4 or 5 singles that came out of that one album, and it would last for 2 or 3 years if you kind of played your cards right as an artist. So it's so hard to pick one song, because I really think more about the album than I do the actual song. Okay, well, let's get to the rundown here. So I will give the list here off the top of my head. I'm going to have George starting this off at the 1 spot. I'm going to go second. JD is third, making Anna the last to drop her top 5. And we'll go in our typical order, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, starting with your number 5 pick. So, George, over to you, man. Number 5, what do you have as your top song of 2000?
All right, I'm going to go with a band that I really love, and it's a song that I always loved. I'm going to go with Queens of the Stone Age, Lost Art of Keeping a Secret, off their album, Rated R.
Leap of faith, do you doubt? Cut you in, I just cut you out. Whatever you do, don't tell anyone. Whatever you do.
I picked this song because I thought it was super cool. I remember when I first heard this band, and I really liked the blues influence on the guitars and their use of bass in this particular song, and it always had a really cool feel to it. Like, it was almost sounded like an old spy movie. If you're aware of the song, it's a very cool song.
And you've heard a little excerpt of it prior to George's explanation, as Kyle has explained to us post-humorously.
I really liked Queens of Stone Age. It's not on my list anywhere, but that was a band that I got into right around that time period. They had some good hits.
Yeah, that's a fantastic band. And it's, you messaged me earlier in the week, George, and you're like, my list is going to surprise you. And I was not expecting this as on your list, let alone, a number 5, maybe an honorable mention, but everything that you say about why it's an important song and the influences that it brings to the old earlobes is kind of cool.
100% agree. Okay, well, over to me for my number 5 pick. So I am going to go with a song that topped out number 26 on the Billboard Alternative Song list. It came from the album Relationship of Command. I am talking about At the Drive-In's One Arm Scissor.
Jesus, amputations, rental loud ring, shit has access now. Get away, send transmission to the one-arm scissor. Get away, send transmission from the one-arm scissor.
One of my favorite songs this was a huge inspirational song for us as a band around that time, because this is where we tried to emulate this song for sure. It like just vocally and the screaming, and kind of started that whole like post-hardcore phase that happened in this early 2000 period. So yeah, just one of my favorite songs. Great line in there, send transmission to the one-armed scissor. Just love it. Such a great lyric. So
I have not thought about that band in a long time, but I definitely gave them a lot of listening back then. Have to try it again.
yeah, absolutely. JD, you're third up, man. Number 5 pick. What do you have?
So my number 5 pick is going to be pretentious AF, and you're going to deal with it. I'm heading to the year 2000, obviously, and I am going to pluck a song from a soundtrack. I was expecting a little blowback from you, Kyle, but you're still waiting with bated breath.
On pins and crack fingernails. Go ahead.
Well, who knows? I'm going to take a song from the movie Virgin Suicides, which I've talked in depth my love of this soundtrack in the past. Playground Love by Air.
I'm a high school lover, and you're my favorite flavor. Love is all.
And I feel like there's a little pause in the audience because obviously I pulled the Ted Mosby card. But this is such a cool song because it's interesting to be able to take a piece of music from a soundtrack, and there's so much that goes into the art and the instrumental nuances of a film to begin with. And yet this soundtrack and this song sort of encapsulates and captures so much of the high school experience, the fear, the anxiety, the angst, and pushes it out in this just little jazzy number that is just, I don't know. If you've not listened to it, give it a listen. If you have listened to it and you don't like it, unfollow me on Twitter. And if you do like it, then hey, let's hang out.
You've talked about your love of this soundtrack before, so I'm actually not surprised by your pick here. And you're definitely right. It's very pretentious to go with a soundtrack song right off the bat. But with that being said, last time we talked about this, I went on YouTube and I listened to several of those songs from the soundtrack and really loved them. You get no hate from me.
Well, good.
Not yet, anyway.
Well, I want to hear George chime in a little bit about some Virgin Suicide love or hate, some Sofia Coppola.
You know what the thing about that movie is? I actually love that movie, and I actually remember, I think I actually still own it on like DVD or something like that. And one of the most important parts of the movie is the music itself, because you have very like long stretches where there's not a lot of dialogue, and the music itself just kind of plays throughout and pushes the movie forward. So the music is great, actually.
The scene where they're like the faction of the girls and the faction of the boys, and they're calling each other back and forth, and they're just playing a song to one another. And then they hang up, and then the other faction plays a song in response. It's just like, come on, that's being 14, 15, 16-year-old in a nutshell. You have no idea what the hell's going on, but this song means something to you. So you're going to play it for somebody.
100% agree. Okay. Well, Anna, you are last up in this first round. Number 5, what do you have?
So I went with Hanging by a Moment by Lifehouse.
I'm falling even more in love with you, letting go of all I've held on to. I'm standing here until you make me move. I'm hanging by a moment here with you.
That song was, I don't know, I just remember it being really popular back then. I looked for the CD all over the place, could not find it, and finally found it at FYE. So I paid way too much, and it was in the wrong section. So it was like, back then it was really exciting to find a CD when you couldn't find it. But the stars aligned, so then I could repeatedly listen to the song that I most likely related to whoever my crush was at that time.
Okay, that's really cool. And yeah, I mean, Lifehouse, this was a really popular song too. I remember this being on like the TRL top 10 countdown for a while with Carson Daly. And yeah, just it's not on my list, but I really like this song, especially like if you catch a live acoustic version of it on YouTube by the lead singer. It's really good when he plays it live too.
Yeah, it's a catchy song.
He's got that late 90s little rasp to his voice, which is cool.
But it's so, and I agree with everything that she says, because I remember distinctly this hanging in the moment with this song and being like, that girl across the hall, does she like me?
Goes back to the whole Virgin Suicide high school song thing.
Yep.
Yes. George is just laughing at us.
Man, I remember this song, and I remember hating that song. But yes, I definitely know this song.
Well, George is not mincing words here, but let's find out what he's got at number 4. George, what's your number 4 pick?
With my number 4 pick, I went with Macy Gray, I Try. You know, when Macy Gray came out, she was such an original kind of character. And it definitely showed, it was still a part of that scene where you could be in the 90s and be a really freaky kind of weirdo kind of person and even sound a little bit like a duck and just come out with a beautiful song. And plus, like, everybody I know used to make out to this song. I made out to this song. It was a good time. And I didn't just make out with myself. I made out with girls to this song.
The boy is speaking and filing paperwork.
There you go, man. Oily skin, all the good stuff back then.
Yeah, she has one of those voices, like the minute she starts singing, like there's no doubt who you're listening to. And I haven't kept up with her over the years. George, is she still pretty active, or what's she up to these days?
Last time I heard, she put out an album a couple of years ago, but she stopped singing for a while and she started acting. She was actually in the movie Training Day, and it's a couple of scenes. If you remember her scene in the movie, it wasn't too big, but she did movies for a while, and then she started singing again.
Was she or was she not in Fuller House?
I've never seen Fuller House, so I don't know.
I think she was.
Probably.
I am trying a quick fact check there for you. And yes, she was. One episode in an episode called Funner House.
Ooh, yeah.
There you go. I might have to watch it now because I know Macy Gray is on an episode.
Up your nose with a rubber hose.
Got to see some of that Kimmy Gibbler.
All right. I'm going to take the next one here with my number 4 pick. So this is one of the first concerts I ever saw. It was in the year 2000, and they were on tour with a little band called Hoobastank. This album actually came out in 1999, but the single dropped November 20th of 2000, peaked number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, and was the number 1 Billboard alternative song. And it's off the album Make Yourself, and it is Incubus's Drive. So this song, I love this song. Anytime it comes on, word for word, just sing it right through. And it actually was like one of their really soft songs that they came out with, because a lot of their earlier stuff was a lot more up tempo, and like the Science album is amazing. I love that one. But yeah, Make Yourself was kind of their step into the national spotlight, and I think they delivered. I really love that album, and this single is easily my favorite off the album. So
I would have picked a different song off that album, which may or may not be on my list.
okay.
Don't know. We'll see. But it's a great pick. Like, Drive is a great song, and it is very, very low key. And I think what they do musically and lyrically is very fitting for the time, for sure. So I love the pick.
Very good. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to love your number 4, but let's find out what it is. What do you have?
Jeez, you're not going to love my number 4 pick? I think you will. I'm going for a Chicago-based punk band. It's their second album, Maybe I'll Catch Fire. I'm talking Alkaline Trio, and I'm talking the song Radio.
Red eyes on orange horizons. If Columbus was wrong, I drive straight off the edge. I drive straight off the edge.
George is laughing because he's beat up a few members of the band.
Yeah, I remember them being out and being big, and yeah, they were cool.
They were a cool band. I think that their music grows and then plateaus, as tends to happen. But for me, in my high school experience, like, Alkaline Trio was a big band. This album it had 3, 4, 5 hits off of it that were difficult to like not include on this list for sure. But being in the Chicagoland area and seeing that there's this band that comes from Chicago and comes from Elgin and comes from Aurora. There's the song Fuck You Aurora on this album, which is just hilarious because they're just, is it a girl named Aurora? Is it the entire town of Aurora, but a big middle finger to them?
I was never the biggest Alkaline Trio fan, but I caught them at a Warped Tour one year, and they were awesome.
Believe it. Yeah, I've never seen them live, but I worked with a guy. This is such a great secondhand story. Worked with a guy at a movie theater who went to St. Edward's with the bassist from the band, and so he like really got me like pumped up about Alkaline Trio, and so we used to just listen to them, and we would geek out over their music before and after shifts for sure. So,
quick question: is Alkaline your favorite Chicago-based band?
Ooh, that is a good question, and you're really putting me on the spot. And I'm trying to think of the name. Nope, Los Marihuanos.
Okay.
There was a CD that the Q101, which is the big Chicago area radio station, put out 2 local CDs. There was Local 101 and the Local 101 Volume 2, and there was a band called Los Marihuanos that was on Local 101 Volume 2, and their song was just, it's the time to get high, it's time to get high, it's time to get high, yeah, it's time to get high.
Great album. Great song, obviously.
Anna, do you have a favorite Chicago band?
Moving right along. Yeah, I'd have to say Wilco.
Wilco? Okay.
Yep.
What about you, George?
You know what? I'm actually probably go with Fall Out Boy. They get a lot of flack, but when they very first came out, they were a very cool band. And then, whatever happened, they started to go along and then, they changed a little bit. But at first, they really put out some really quality music.
Agreed.
I actually met these guys. I actually met the guys from Fall Out Boy at a party one time before their album came out, right? So this was like, I was probably in high school still. So I met Pete Wentz, and he's talking to me, and he's telling me about his music, and I'm pretty sure I called him a homo. I'm almost positive I did. And it's like, man,
you changed the direction of the whole band.
I said, yeah, you're not going to go anywhere with that, man. That Fall Out Boy, what does that even mean?
So are you more critical of them or the Academy Is, which also went to our high school, which I picked on them?
Oh yeah.
Was not a fan of them.
I love that the Academy Is, and Mike was cool. And, I remember when they started performing and he was telling me, and I'm like, okay, I actually got a chance to see them live. And then I'm like, oh, you guys are pretty fucking good. And they ended up being a pretty big band. I was a big fan.
For one CD.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I was never an Academy Is fan, but the one band that I always loved out of Chicago, which never got the love that they should have, but they also didn't have a great follow-up to their big hit, was Lucky Boys Confusion. And I saw them several times.
Great. That is a
They were a
great
fun
name
band.
drop.
Also on Local 101, that CD with Los Marijuanos.
All right, Anna, over to you. Number 4 pick. What do you have?
I can't make a top 5 list without putting NSYNC on it if they came out with an album that year. So Bye 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 is my number 4 song. I still jam out to NSYNC. I was always an NSYNC fan over Backstreet Boys. I know that was a thing you had to decide back then. So I even married a guy named Justin because of how awesome Justin Timberlake is. So that's my dedication.
The real reasons coming out.
There you have it.
That's hilarious. You know what? A lot of people used to hate on NSYNC, but I feel like it's grown on, especially on a lot of guys over the years, because if you go to a wedding, I'll be damned if that song doesn't come on and every dude is on the dance floor dancing and knows every word of that song. I'm like, oh, weren't you the guy that used to make fun of them? And all of a sudden you're like, with your little hand, bye, bye, bye. Yeah. You're doing like a twirl and stuff. It's a little ridiculous, but yeah. No, they had catchy tunes, and yeah, that boy band era was just so big. Like, I mean, if we have audience members that are a little bit younger that didn't live through that, like those dudes were just churning out like gold albums, left and right, platinum albums. They're just so popular. Over to you, George. Number 3. What do you have?
You know what? I'm gonna go with someone international. I'm gonna go with Robbie Williams, Rock DJ. Houston, do you hear me? Ground control, can you feel me? Need permission to land. I don't wanna rock, DJ, but you're making me feel so nice. When's it gonna stop, DJ? Robbie Williams, he did this song, and it was an incredible song. If you've never seen the video is what really nails the song, because he's stripping in the song, right? And then at the very end of the video, he comes and he strips off his entire skin, and it's him and his skeleton singing this song. And the funny thing about this song is that it's presented in a way that is really poppy and really upbeat, but if you actually listen to the words, it's an actual disgusting song. There's actually a lyric in the song that says, give no head, no backstage passes. So it was always funny, like, because around this time, rap got like a really bad vibe from people, and they were always complaining about how vulgar it was. So this song was so hilarious to me personally, because it was such a vulgar song, but it was presented in a pop way.
Yeah, I used to jam out to that song, and I had forgotten about the music video until now, but yeah.
Yeah, great lay down about the music video, because that was something interesting for sure. And I remember the first time that I watched that and being like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now.
Throwing it back to myself here at number 3. Now, this is where the list got really tough, because I had 6 songs left and 3 spots. So I had to do some cutting here. Actually, if I could show you my paper, everything is all scribbled out, because I'm still trying to make this last 3 count. So with that being said, I am going to go with the group. So between 97 and 2000, there's probably no bigger pop rock band in the world than this band I'm about to talk about. And they were fresh off their debut self-titled album that had hit after hit after hit. I am going with the January 2000 single, which peaked number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100. It is Never Let You Go by Third Eye Blind. Man, Third Eye Blind was just amazing back then for me. I love the song. I love the single. And the Blue Album didn't really live up to the self-titled album that did so well and was kind of the band's downfall because it didn't produce the hits and the amount of album sales for them. But yeah, just this one song is kind of a standout for me on that album. JD, what do you got? You're staring a hole at me.
No, I want to hear George's guffaw. I want to hear a follow-up to that.
You know, the thing about this band now, it's hard for me to kind of put them in the context of then because all I can think about them is now and how like they were like performing at Trump rallies and all this stuff. And it's just it's hard for me to not think about that when I think about them. But at one point in time, they were one of those bands that were pretty cool. And they had a lot of so I think around this time in alternative music, you had two kind of different scenes. You had the rock rap with like an Incubus or Limp Bizkit, and then you had the other end who did more of a rock pop, like your Third Eye Blind and Matchbox 20. Yep. I was more of a Matchbox 20 guy, but Third Eye Blind was cool.
You know, I haven't kept up with them over the years. I had no idea they were like a super political band and doing stuff
they're
like that.
They're not, though. That's the thing.
Oh, they're not? They were just desperate for that cash?
Yeah. Oh, it was so weird. Like, we're going to because Donald Trump was talking, we're going to pick this cool band. We're going to pick the band that the people love. We're going to go Third Eye Blind. And I'm like, what? What fucking year is this?
Who hasn't had a hit 20 years, literally?
But their hits, they last. Yeah. That's good music. That'll win for you. And it did.
It's very 100%. Outdated sounding, I would say. It sounds like something that came out in 2000.
JD, number 3, what do you have?
All right, so my number 3 pick, I feel like I might catch some Arthur Fleck for. And it was very difficult to put this song and this album and this band at number 3 because they are still, in my heart, one of the greatest bands ever. I follow them. I engage with them on Facebook and Twitter. And every time they say anything, they release a new track, I'm like all balls out for it. But I'm going to say that we're talking the Swiss Army Romance. We're talking Screaming Infidelities. We're talking Dashboard Confessional. It was hard to not have them be at number 1, in all honesty, because like the song was for me a defining moment in my high school pantheon of experience. Like it's every white boy was just pining for what Chris was singing about, and it was hard to not connect to what he was doing. And the whole album was honestly great for sure, but I listened to the song before we started recording, and there was a couple of other tracks that I was like, maybe I'll go a different direction. Maybe we're thinking the Sharp Hint of New Tears. Maybe we're thinking the Swiss Army Romance. Maybe we're thinking Turpentine Tracer, and it all comes back to Screaming Infidelities. Amazing song. Yep, love it. And that is one that I think has kind of stood the test of time as well, because he still plays that pretty often, and will do he's done a bunch of Facebook Lives recently, and he's been playing that, and it's just his voice has changed and he's gotten better on the guitar. So it's such a nice mix because you can hear
how much he's improved over the 20 years.
Yeah, and they had their tour coming out, their DC 2020 tour, which was sort of cut short due to, Corona quarantine. But and we talked about this, Kyle, like we missed them in Chicago because their tickets sold out so effing quickly. And I've never seen them live. I've never seen him play. I've heard he's had some pretty dramatic moments on stage where he's had too much to drink before he gets on, and then he just lets the crowd sing for him, which I think is the ongoing joke about, him, at least in his early career. But yeah, I could not have them on my list.
Yeah. I caught him, would have been around 2005 in Evansville, Indiana. It's my favorite concert I've ever gone to. And he was not drunk and sounded perfect and was like, it was just amazing. The whole set was great. So I would go see them again in a heartbeat.
Who opened at that concert?
Nobody. So yeah,
that's ballsy.
Yeah, brought him in. It was just him for like 2 hours. Yeah, with the full band. Anna, number 3 pick. What do you have?
Number 3, B.O.B. by Outkast.
Black hair lacking a back of peppers, back of questions with no answers. Cure for cancer, cure for AIDS. Make it wanna stay on tour for days. Get back home, things are wrong. When I really it was bad all along before you left ass up to a ball of power. Thoughts at 1,000 miles per hour. Hello ghetto, let your brain breathe. Believe there's always more. Don't pull the thing out unless you plan the bang.
When this album came out, I remember Miss Jackson being the one everyone talked about. And the one everyone remembers, but the song has grown on me over the years over that one. I've always thought that Outkast has a catchy style and sound. That's my choice.
Outkast was awesome at that time, and yeah, I was a huge fan. Like Hey Ya was one that was like super popular, but I'm sure like B.O.B. to me is a better song than Hey Ya, which was more like, I feel like just a radio driven song for them, but gosh, they were amazing. Yeah, JD, Warren, either of you guys fans of Outkast back in the day?
Yeah, I was a huge fan. Before this particular album, Stankonia, they had more of Atlanta sound because that's where they're from. So this album really, really took them from a local sounding rap group and took them straight up into another planet. And Bombs Over Baghdad was the song, and it still holds up to this day because you have elements of hip hop, rock, and gospel at the end of the song. It's just a perfect song.
So I find that so interesting that you bring up that sort of juxtaposition, because we talked about Chicago bands with Alkaline Trio and Fall Out Boy and The Academy Is, and a lot of them never grew out of their Midwestern roots. And the point that you make about Outkast growing out of their Atlanta roots and growing into like a national stage is just phenomenal to their skill set and their level of just to lay it the F down.
Absolutely, man. One of the hardest things to do as a rapper is to go from sounding local, because that's what a lot of bands and artists have an issue with. Yes, you can get a local following, but how do you get someone that has no idea who you are to vibe with you? And, this album was just it. If you listen to hip hop and you didn't have this album, like, people didn't respect you. Like, get the fuck out of here. You don't like Stankonia? Everybody likes Stankonia.
Can I also, not only is Andre 3000 considered like one of the greatest rappers of all time by Billboard, he's also great in a lot of movies. Like him is Coffee Black, Downtown Funky Stuff, Malone, and Semi-Pro. Like, gosh, I just rewatched Semi-Pro a couple months ago, and I was like, man, he's so good in this movie. And yeah, he had several movies in that 10-year period there. Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, I'm going to throw it back over to myself here. So actually, we're down to the number 2 pick. This one kept changing spots for me. It was 1, it was 3, it was 2, and then I finally decided to keep it at number 2. So I am obviously in the year 2000, and it's off of a album that came out in 1999. It peaked number 6 on the charts here, and I feel like really launched this band into the stratosphere of one of the greatest punk pop bands of all time. And I know JD and Anna are huge fans. I am talking about Blink 182's All the Small Things.
All the small things, true care, truth brings. I'll take one lift, you're right, best trip. Always, I know you'll be at my show.
Man, this entire album though, I listened to from start to finish. It's one of those I'll just start with one and just play it all the way through. And just, yeah, I mean, this is the first album they had Travis Barker on. The drums are a massive improvement over Dude Ranch and Cheshire Cat in some of their earlier work. So yeah, I love this song, and it was the one that really, I think, kind of got them to the next level. And the video was just on repeat with TRL forever, it seemed like. So, and then What's My Age Again, same thing. Just like they had so many hits off this one album. But
I totally agree. It's an amazing song and album and band. It's also one of the few that I can listen to all the way through and enjoy every second of it.
Yeah, I feel like there used to be a way that was handled where you would put the album, the vinyl, on the player, and you would just put the groove to number 1 and just listen to it from side to side. That I think is lost on today's generation, but this album definitely clicks all the notches of that experience.
It did. And you straight through it. You didn't put it on shuffle or anything. It was just start to finish.
no need to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
great.
think the best thing about this particular album, I really like the album cover one.
Yep.
That was fantastic. And she was in the video of All the
Janine.
Small Things, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, I think she's in What's My Age Again. This is the one where they're running around
I
naked.
know she's definitely in one of the videos, yeah. And I think you bring up a great point about Travis Barker. I think if you listen to Blink 182 pre-Travis Barker, it's just, they're very goofy sounding guys. Their voices are kind of goofy. Their music is kind of goofy. But when they drop this album and they put Travis Barker in, he brings a high level of musicality. So he kind of bridges the gap between two really goofy white guys. And then when you see him, it's kind of like, oh, that's a cool looking dude. And then he really pulls it in together, and he became a really big star himself. Yeah. I remember he did that reality TV show, I believe, around this same time, or like a couple of years after this album.
100%. Yeah, he's done a lot of things. He's was one of the founding clothing company members of Famous Stars and Straps, which was really popular. He's done a ton of crossover work. He's helped a lot of people. He's got like a vegan restaurant chain in California. Like, he's just all over the place. But yeah, to your point, George, like, he had such a cool look, just like tatted to the gills. And just the way that he played was so different than everybody else in that genre that I just think people like gravitated toward him and wanted, they're all trying to rock that style with the Dickies and the long socks and the backwards hat, and like everybody was trying to emulate that. So yeah.
Let's not ignore where he cut his teeth with the Aquabats.
The Aquabats.
Oh yeah. Haven't heard
awesome.
that in a long time.
No, I have a couple numbers left on my list, so just wait for it.
Okay. Now, speaking of list, I'm now realizing that we talked so much about Outkast that I thought it was actually George's pick. So I skipped him at number 2. So we're going back to George with the number 2 pick. What do you got?
Well, I'm glad that you checked your white privilege and you brought it back to me. I'm going to go with St. Louis's own Nelly and the song E.I.
I'm a sucker for cornrows and manicure toes. Fendi Capri pants and parasuit clothes. I'm Master Diddy and City with 1 or 2 goals. I'm drafting them out of high school straight into the pro. Who knows? I know. And I love it when you make your knees touch your elbows and break it down low to the floor. There you go. Now throw it on me, showing every time.
So you had a Country Grammar was a really big album, huge, right? I think around this time in the year 2000, I think is really when rap changed 100%, and it became more suburban friendly, and it became more inclusive. Before, rap was very inclusive, and I would say Nelly was one of those artists that was able to kind of bring people in, because this song in particular, it's a party song. It's a song that you would play at a party and you would hear it, and you didn't have to worry about the white guy next to you saying the N-word, because he doesn't use it in most of his music. It's not going to be this weird kind of situation where people are reciting rap lyrics and you're looking at the guy next to you like, don't fucking say it, don't say it. So this is like the perfect party song. If you were at a party with me, I guarantee you I played this song every time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love this whole album. I think they had 4 singles off of this, and this was released off of Universal. So it's like he hit the ground with a lot of backing too, and just like I said, a ton of airplay. I mean, it probably had to be one of the top 10 albums in sales of that year, I would imagine, at least especially in his genre, for sure. So it was like him and Eminem and Dr. Dre kind of battling it out for those top spots there.
Oh yeah, hip hop. This was a huge year for hip hop and R&B. It was huge. And Nelly was one of those people who were huge. Nelly, Ja Rule, Jay-Z came out with a really big album. It was just Outkast. It was just a really great year for hip hop and R&B.
Yeah, I'm looking at the album sales. I was just curious. Went diamond, which is the highest, 8.56 million units. That's insane. JD, I'm going to throw it back to you now that we're back in the correct order. What do you have at number 2?
So I agree with everything that George just said. Like, rap definitely page in the year 2000. And I think that this album, this song, this band did everything to the contrary of what George is saying. I'm talking about the album Superfast. I'm talking about the song Boys in the Hood. I'm talking about Dynamite Hack.
Woke up quick at about noon. Just thought that I had to be in Compton soon. I gotta get drunk before the day begins, before my mother starts bitching about my friends. About to go and damn near went blind. Young niggas on the path throwing up gang signs. I went in the house to get the clip.
Yeah, I went there.
Wow.
This song, George, you have to put yourself in the opposite shoes. This was a white boy anthem. Like, we never had what we thought we could have for everything that you're saying about what Outkast and what, Ja and what, this was like the Robert Cheese version of cool to us.
You know what? I think the only thing I didn't like about this song is that a lot of people didn't remember the original NWA version. And that's what I didn't like. The first time I heard somebody
That's totally fair.
I said, hey, you like NWA? And he said, what, bro? That's Dynamite Hack. Who? And then I went to go listen to it. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, but even their name, Dynamite Hack, is sort of telling of the fact that they're a dynamite hack to the original.
At first, I thought it was the Bloodhound Gang or somebody weird like that.
No, I loved this song. George, I'm sure I rocked out to the song with you at one point throughout high school or college, but this was definitely an anthem.
I definitely remember you playing this, and you probably don't remember, but I rolled my eyes probably every time.
Hey, I would not be surprised at all. I love you, but not surprised.
Hey, JD, out of curiosity, is that where you get your fashion sense from this band?
I'm pausing because I'm hating you.
I'm watching the video now. The guy's wearing a collared shirt and a sweater over the top, and I'm just like, that's JD.
That's a fine ensemble. That is a fine ensemble to wear.
Pieces are coming together.
All you all. Wipe you off the board.
Got the fashion from Dynamite Hack and the tattoos from Travis Barker. I love it.
Oh, that part's cool at least.
Yeah.
Thank you. Somebody likes me.
All right, and number 2 pick for you. What do you have?
So speaking of white boys, I have Real Slim Shady by Eminem as my number 2.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? I repeat, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? We're gonna have a problem here.
Because like any cool kid, I had an Eminem phase. My parents loved the fact that I had his posters all over my room, along with Blink-182, of course. So much that I ended up putting them on the back door so they just couldn't see them anymore. And I just, this song is still fun to listen to. And back then we didn't have cable, so I had to watch the music video on like a fuzzy knockoff MTV channel. I don't know what it was, but it was very close music video, as his tended to be. But it was a cool song.
You know what? Everybody had that phase, and I was unfortunately part of that as well. So if I were to show you my 8th grade football photo, it's me with orange hair because I couldn't get it blonde. It looked awful. I got braces, and yeah, I don't know what to say. It was bad.
I would love to see that picture. Please put it on Twitter.
Share that photo.
I'll have
Mr. Gorbachev, share that photo.
I don't think Eminem like really was looked at the same way he is now back then. Because that's what was happening. It's just these white kids dyeing their hair what turns out to be orange. And he was so like violent and just saying about murdering his wife. But like once that all kind of got like toned down on, I think he kind of turned into a very different artist.
Mm-hmm. Looks like we are down to the last pick here. So George started off with some Queens of Stone Age with his top pick. Then we went to Macy Gray's I Try. Robbie Williams, Rock DJ, was his number 3. Nelly with EI at number 2. Number 1 pick, George, what do you have?
You know, there's certain songs that when you first hear it, it just kind of changes your life. And you hear it and you think, that's the fucking song, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with my number 1 pick, Outkast, So Fresh, So Clean. Ain't nobody don't ask me, I'm just so fresh and so clean. Don't you think I'm so sexy? I'm just so fresh and so clean. Ain't nobody don't ask me, I'm just so fresh and so clean. I think one of the best parts about this song and this video, the video was what nailed it. Because at this time, this was before the Atlanta explosion. So maybe a few years after this, the Atlanta took over the hip hop community, right? And this was right before that. So you had all these like really famous Atlanta artists from TLC to Usher, and you had real life pimps in the video. And it was like, the video was so entertaining. Everything was so catchy. And all the lyrics were so clever. They even made me look at Zipper, my actual zipper. Because there's a line in the song that says YKK on your zipper. And if you actually research that, YKK is a company that is the biggest provider of zippers, I believe, in the world. That's funny. Clever writing right there.
You'll learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's a very solid top 5 from George. Here's the rundown on my list. So started with At the Drive-In, One Arm Scissor at number 5. Incubus, Drive was number 4. Number 3 was Never Let Go, Third Eye Blind. Second was Blink-182, All the Small Things. And then my number 1 pick I think JD will really relate to this pick because it was a song that we heard a lot. It was released September 28th of 2000, and it was off an album that would go on to sell over 10.5 million copies. And it was actually the #1 best-selling album of the year in 2001. And I am talking about One Step Closer from Linkin Park.
Just like before. Everything you say to me takes me one step closer to the edge. And I'm about to break. I need a little room to breathe. 'Cause I'm one step closer to the edge. I'm about to break. I find the answers aren't so clear. Wish I could find a
And
way
I'm getting a laugh from JD, but I'll tell you what, this album for me, another one where I listened through the entire thing. It had so many hits on it. And it was just like, it felt like 2 years later, they were still coming out with singles on this album.
Was
It's
that not
crazy.
because of Hybrid or whatever?
Yeah, the album's called Hybrid Theory. Yeah, the album was released in 2000. This was actually the first single. And then it was Crawling, Paper Cut, and In the End.
Yeah,
They're
this
four
was a nonstop bellowing in the locker room.
Yep. Probably still is, to be honest. Like, I feel like this is just a song that you put on when, like, you want to really throw some iron around the gym. And it's just, I mean, they had a lot of good songs after this as well. Unfortunately, obviously the lead singer passing away a couple of years ago kind of put a damper on some of that. But I mean, even the last album they did, has some really good songs on there as well that I like. So, yeah, I mean, Anna, George, anything you guys want to add on to Linkin Park?
I think this is one of the bands like what I was talking about earlier, where the rap and rock met and it meshed perfectly. And if you remember correct, I believe they performed this song on that album they did with Jay-Z. If you remember that album they did where they combined, I believe, this album and the Jay-Z's Black album.
It was like Reanimation. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a fusion album that they did with Jay-Z. And I believe they fused this song with 99 Problems, possibly. It was something that MTV was doing at one point in time. And this was definitely a good representation because you had this real hard rock band, right, that had a guy rapping on almost every song, right? So it's like, even if you say you claim to hate rap, this was around the time where rap was really taking over. And it oozed its way into everything, into rock, into everything, even country music. I remember Tim McGraw and Nelly had a really big song like in the year 2002, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if you remember too, not only did they have that co-song with Jay-Z, but then they launched a music festival called Project Revolution, where they would bring different artists together. So like the first year was Linkin Park, Cypress Hill, Edema, and DJ Z-Trip were on the main stage there. So that tour was really cool too. And I think they put out I think it was like a live album that went with that I remember hearing, or at least ripping some songs off of Napster or LimeWire. So yeah, okay. So that's my top 5. So I'm going to throw it back to JD here, who started with a soundtrack, Virgin Suicide's Playground Love. Number 4 was Alkaline Trio with Radio. Number 3, Swiss Army Romance. We were talking about Dashboard Confessional and Screaming Infidelities. Great pick. Number 2 was Dynamite Hack, Boys in the Hood. I'm scared. I'm worried. What's number 1?
Number 1 is a song that unites America in all of their rock, their pop, their country, their rap. It takes everything that we love from Michael Jackson to everything that we love from Travis Barker. It is the Aquabats. Of course, I'm talking about Pool Party!
Popcorn, hot dog buns, and hamburger patties. All the food you need to feed the many hungry. Millions of people run into my party, but it's invite only, and you're on the list, baby.
You're cool, Ritz.
I cleaned it yesterday.
Girls look cute.
In their swimming suits.
Holy guacamole.
We've got chips.
Has to be. It has to be. Pool Party is the anthem of the Aquabats. It is the anthem of Yo Gabba Gabba. It's the cutting of the teeth for Travis Barker. Everything about this song is fun, and it is just jovial. And I literally threw a pool party in college. This is a true story. Kyle, you were invited. You did not come. George, you were invited. You did not come. I hate both of you.
What about
Continue.
me?
Anna was there.
Okay.
So we threw a pool party, and we did all of the directions from the song. We had holy guacamole, we've got chips. There was chips, there was guacamole, there was burgers, there was hot dogs, and there was also a roof above a pool at my parents' house that I thought this would be fantastic for me to run down and jump into the pool. And as I'm running down the roof of my parents' house, I slip. Danger music. And I fall. And instead of cracking my skull against the end of the pool, I just sort of slip into the water and did not kill myself. So I'm very lucky to be alive, because this song taught me anything. It was jump off of roofs into pools.
It was terrifying. It was all happening in slow motion. And then
And I
your
just
brother
laughed
had a
it off.
similar experience eventually.
Well, yes, he did.
You guys like
That
falling
was-
into pools.
Yes, the DeSandra boys love slipping and falling into water.
How long did Barker continue with Aquabats?
It wasn't very long because he did not like the shtick.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Probably. Was he even still part of the band in 2000, or was it recorded
No.
prior?
He left long before then, and when he left for Blink, Aquabats brought in a new drummer, and they did not skip a beat.
Okay.
Aquabats.
Let's throw it back to Anna. So you started with Hanging by a Moment from Lifehouse at number 5. We were going Bye 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 with NSYNC at number 4. Number 3 was Outkast with B.O.B. And then The Real Slim Shady at number 2. Number 1 pick, what do you have?
So this is a song off probably one of my all-time favorite albums that I can still listen to. And that album is Enema of the State. So All the Small Things by Blink-182.
All the small things, true care, truth brings. I'll take one lift. You're right, best trip. Always, I know you'll be at my show.
I played this CD so much until it just didn't play right anymore. It just had scratches and splotches and whatever CDs have after you show them so much love. That this was always one of my favorite bands. They were just so cool because they made fun of the boy bands. You know, like all the Small Things video was just making fun of boy bands, which was great. I also liked the boy bands so a little. It was just one of those anthems you choose for yourself. I could write all the lyrics out. I still know all the lyrics to the song. This band launched me into my whatever punk phase, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, pretty cool.
So is All the Small Things, is that your favorite song off of the album, or do you have a different song?
I like that song, but they're all so good.
Yeah.
But that would be my favorite, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would say it's definitely up there, but I would put actually going away to college is one of my favorite Blink songs, because I just love that little guitar riff and how it opens, like just so catchy, and also easy to play, which was fun for me because I'm limited on what I can do, but those little 3 chords I can rock.
Well, 3 inches, 3 chords.
Whatever. Potato penis. Now, I'm sure we all have some tracks and songs that did not make the top 5. So I definitely want to circle back around to George here. George, did you have any honorable mentions on your list?
Yeah, I got 2 actually. This one like almost made my list, but it just quite missed it. No Doubt, New. It actually
Love that.
came out, I believe, in 1999 on the Go soundtrack, if you remember that movie.
Yep.
But then it was on their actual album in the year 2000. And then, you know, I'm going to go with a really goofy song that it's really goofy now when you think about it, but at the time it was huge. I believe the Thong song came out in the year 2000.
Yes.
If I'm not
Thong, the thong, thong, thong.
Somebody had to mention it.
It
was
had to be
such
done.
it's so stupid. Like if you just like recite some of the lyrics aloud, you just sound like an idiot, right? Dumps like a truck. Thighs like what? You know, like, all right.
Spitting poetry.
But we all listened to
Gosh.
it. It's
We
just something
sure-
you did.
We
Oh,
sure
yeah,
in the
it was
shit
a big
did.
song. Yeah, I hated the song until I was at a party freshman year of high school, and the girl pulled her thong out, and I said, "You know what? This isn't a bad song."
Oh, gosh.
That is like right around, it was like trendy to wear your thong like up outside of your
Yeah.
pants. Yeah.
Shout out to Lita, WWF.
That's right, man.
Boom. Okay. That's a couple good ones there. So I've got a few honorable mentions on my list. One, I was like, man, I've listened to this song so many times, but it was, speaking of wrestling, it was the Undertaker's theme song for a while, Rollin'. And just, God, so it's such a dumb song though. Like it hasn't aged it well at all, but it was super popular at the time. But the album name, one of the coolest album names ever, Chocolate Starfish and Hot Dog Flavored Water. Come on. A lot of people had that album. That's when Limp Bizkit was like at their highest. I almost had Three Doors Down on my list. Kryptonite was super popular. I like that song. And then what else did I have? Papa Roach, Last Resort was another one I was throwing around.
No.
But I
You're
had to,
not serious.
There we go.
I could only put one on there, and I had to go to Linkin Park. Come on, you
Yeah.
tell me Papa Roach wasn't a popular song.
Cut me up into pieces. That's my last resort.
Yep.
Pass.
Screamo phase, man.
Yeah.
I had it.
I was actually really surprised that nobody went with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication, because
That was
a
on my list at
huge
one
album.
point too. Yep.
And I had it on there, and I took it off, but it was like, that was such a great song, and a great album too. It was
Yep.
it
Great
was
album,
up
yeah.
there.
Yep. That was another one that got bumped off. All right, JD, what do you have?
So my picks are I had to leave them off. It sucked so bad. But Elliott Smith off his Figure Eight album, LA.
I hate it.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I like
It's a fantastic song. It's beautifully written. It's very melodic. It's haunted in many ways. It's an excellent song. So if you haven't heard it, give it a listen. I think it's on Rock Band or whatever the kids play nowadays. And
Do they play Rock Band?
I don't know, Kyle. You all have kids. I don't know what kids do.
Okay.
No, they definitely
No.
don't play Rock Band.
That was like a decade
So-
ago. All right.
Well, my second one was another pretentious pick, 13 Tales from Urban Bohemia, the Dandy Warhols, Get Off.
All right. Anna, how about you? Honorable mentions. What do you got?
Jeez, you're not even going to comment on my picks, Kyle? You son of a bitch asshole mother
I don't
effer.
even know who any of those songs
You
or
don't know the
bands are.
Dandy Warhols?
I don't think
Come
so.
on.
I might
You
know
might
the song
like
if I heard
them.
it.
They're good. Not as pretentious as Elliott Smith, if that
No.
gives you a better idea.
Oof. Not my crowd tonight. Thank you, audience. I'm capping out.
All right, so my honorable mentions. Man, this was hard. I could have made like a top 10 list, but I wanted to put the Eels, Fly Swatter on my list. The Eels, I didn't really get into them till college, but they've turned into one of my go-to bands. I also had Blue by Eiffel 65 because, why not? I remember getting that CD for Christmas, and that was a wonderful time. I had the entire album by Green Day, the Warning album, because I know Kyle loves Green Day. And that was a nostalgic album for me. But yeah, those didn't make the cut.
Green Day was solid. Every song sounds the same though. That's the only issue I have with Green Day.
I'm sorry, are you in a Snuggie right now?
I am. I'm doing my best JD here with the Zoom, and I've got a little sweater around my neck, and I'm feeling super pretentious right now. I think it's the sweater.
I'm in a hoodie. I'm wearing a hoodie.
I was hoping it was a Snuggie. Anytime I go Snuggie, I go naked underneath the Snuggie.
Oops. And on that note, I think we've had enough episode for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. George is hanging out like a mother effer.
That's how you gotta do it, man. You know, serious in the front, then in the back, bam, ass out.
Joe Exotic said nothing sweeter.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah, thank you guys for joining us on another really fun top 5 episode. And I look forward to us doing this again at some point, maybe with 2001 or 2002. We got to keep going into the 2000s with the music because, yeah, we might have to go back to 99. But once we hit like 01, 02, 03, it just gets better and better, I think. So
That's good stuff.
All right. Well, again, Anna, thanks for coming on the show. Of course, you guys can follow her at Palindrome Jedi on Twitter. George, probably you've got an underrated Facebook, man. I laugh at least once or twice a day looking at the stuff that you post.
Yeah, man. Anytime I can get people to look at it and think, what the hell is this? I think I'm doing something right.
Yep. So yeah, follow George if you can find him on Facebook. It's George Warren. You don't do Twitter or Instagram, do you?
Nah. I don't really do too much of the social media stuff. It gets a little weird on there sometimes.
Yeah, for sure it does. But yeah, you guys can find him on Facebook. It's a good follow. It gives me a good laugh every now and then when I'm scrolling through. So, but other than that, thank you guys for joining us on the episode. Remember to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, CastBox, Anchor, iHeartRadio. We're all over the place now. Interact with us on social media. Let us know what you think about the songs from 2000. Let us know what your top 5 is. We want to hear them. We want to possibly make fun of you or agree with you or whatever it is. JD with his cracked fingernail or his coke nail, whatever he wants to call it, is so weird looking at his face. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. We want to hear your list. And we will be back in a couple days with another, I think we're doing another top 5, or we might be doing a quarantine special. We'll have to keep you guys posted on what we decide. But for now, thanks for listening. We'll be back in a couple days. See ya.
I really hope that coke nail, both of them, end up snipped.